What's up, YouTube? 1 hour, $1,000. That's the challenge for the day. You guys are probably wondering, why am I doing this? This sounds kind of silly. On the way over here, I literally was driving and I just got so tired out of nowhere. And I have to tell you guys something funny. This is actually the second intro that I've recorded, because the first one, I was watching it back. And when I was telling you guys that I was tired, I didn't say the word tired. I said I crashed on the way over here. And I figured that could have very well been taken out of context, considering I'm recording in a car and I drove over here. So no, I did not crash my vehicle. I'm fine, but physically I just got so tired out of nowhere. I think my caffeine from earlier today is wearing off. And yeah, so the challenge for today is to play 1 hour, make $1,000. Is it possible? Yes. Am I gonna have to get lucky? Yes. Am I gonna have to play more of a high variant style of poker? Probably. And I feel like we are gonna run good because we ran pretty bad last session. If you guys saw that video, you guys already know. So I think it's only appropriate for us to run good here today. So enough rambling, let's get in and out in 1 hour and hopefully make $1,000 playing poker. Let's go. All right, guys, hopefully we can start off on a hot note. We're starting off with a bomb pot. We have King 10 offsuit. 6 people put in $10 straight to 2 boards, where we flop a 10 on both boards. Action ends up checking around, and the turn on the top board is a deuce, and the other one is an ace. A player in middle position leads for $10, so a super small bet. I think it's going to be hard for me to be beat on both boards if we get this heads up, so I think a raise isn't the worst idea. I make it 35. Action full to the player on the button, and unfortunately, he goes all in. Luckily, it's only around $225. The player to my right folds, and I'm just looking, and once again, it's going to be pretty hard for us to be beat on both boards unless he has a hand like Ace 10, even though I think that would probably be betting on the flop a lot of the time. Kings would probably be betting, aces would be betting. Queens might check, but I don't know. I think it's just hard for us to be beat on both boards. If he has like a flush draw on both boards, we're actually ahead. So I don't know. I'm going to gamble. I call, and we're off to see some rivers. The top one is the 4 of diamonds, bottom one 7 of clubs. Doesn't really change much, and yeah, pretty uneventful. We're going to be chopping against 8-2, so we'll take it. In this next hand, no exaggeration, one of the craziest hands I've played in the past few years. We have pocket queens in the +1 position. Under the gun makes it 25. We raise to 80, and he is the only caller. So heads up to a flop, which comes down about as good as we can ask, 3-4-5 rainbow. Expecting him to check it over to me a lot of the time, but no, he leads out for $75. I just sat down, so don't really know this player's tendencies. But the things that I do know is that 1, we have pocket queens, which is a really good hand on this board. 2, if he had other overpairs, I think he would call a raise. And 3, if I had a hand like ace king or ace queen, ace jack, I might re-raise his raise as a bluff. So the point I'm making is I think raising queens here is by far the best play. I make it $250. He calls. The turn is probably one of the best cards in the deck. It is a 4. So the unlikely chance that he flopped a set of 4s makes it now much more unlikely. He checks it over to me once again, and we have around a pot-sized bet behind. We have around $700, and I think the only play here is to go all in. We can target all other overpairs. Don't think he ever has aces or kings, because I think he would re-raise pre-flop. So basically, all we lose to is ace deuce suited and 6-7 suited. And if he has those hands, so be it. So I jam, and he snap calls. Still expecting that we're good a decent percentage of the time, but no, he turns over 6-7 suited. Are you kidding me? So now heads up to a river. The only cards that we're drawing to is a 4 or a queen, and oh my god, the river is a queen. You got to be kidding me. I show my cards, and of course we are going to be winning this pot. I looked up the equities, and this is probably the worst beat I have put on somebody maybe in my whole entire poker career. I had a little bit over 2% on the flop, which is just insane. Wow. So safe to say that this $1,000 an hour challenge
is going about as good as we can possibly ask. What a sick hand. Let's go. Going into this next hand, I'm still ecstatic over that pocket queen's hand. I mean, holy cow, even doing this voiceover, it's no joke. I think that is the baddest beat I've ever put on somebody. But anyways, new hand, and this one we have queen jack of diamonds in the small blind. Early position raises to 20. I just call, and we're going heads up to a flop, which is pretty miserable. Ace king 5 all spades. Action goes check check. Turn is the 6 of clubs. I check it once again, and now he bets 25. And I think a big check raise here isn't the worst idea. I think he's very clearly value betting an ace or a king, and we can apply a lot of pressure to those cards. But I just let it go. We play a few hands that are uneventful. We either straddle or raise pre-flop and we take down the dead money. But this next hand is pretty nuts. I raise 8-6 of diamonds in late position to 20, and we go 4 ways to a flop where it is not very good. It comes 10-9 deuce. There is a diamond out there, but don't really care to bet on this board, so multi-way. Action checks around. The turn is the king of spades. Once again, action checks around, and the river now is the 9 of clubs. So we have nothing but 8 high. Checks to the button, and he just goes ahead and mucks his cards. The player in the big blind says he has 6 high. I immediately tell the cutoff that she's good, but no, she has 7 high. So my 8 high is actually going to win this pot, going 4 ways to a river, which is totally nuts. But hey, we'll definitely take it. Approaching the halfway point in our challenge, we have ace king in the small blind. There's an under the gun straddle and there's a limp. I make it 75. Only the player in later position calls. We're going to be going heads up to a flop, which comes 8, 9, 10. Pretty much the single worst flop we could ask for. I check it, he bets 75, and we snap fold. In this next one, there's a button straddle. We're directly to his left in the small blind. We make it 35 with jack 8 of clubs. Probably a little bit on the looser side. Actually, definitely on the looser side. This should probably just be a fold. But we've been getting lucky, and I kind of want to be playing some hands, give some action, which is probably silly, especially if you're playing poker for a living. But here we are. The flop is not the best. It comes 7-6-4 with 1 club. So we don't have much, and I definitely should be checking this pretty much 100% of the time. But this time I bet $50, which is just a pretty big mistake. This board's definitely going to be better for them. They both end up calling. So definitely done with this hand, unless maybe we can hit a club, a jack, let's see, a 5, an ace or king maybe to bluff on. I don't know. But the return now is the 3 of spades, putting a 4-liner out there. Not ideal. Action ends up checking around. The river is the king of clubs. I'm not going to bluff on this king now that there's a 4-liner out there. My line just wouldn't make much sense. So I check it and give up. The player to my left bets 125. Now the button raises to like 400, and of course we snap fold. And the player to my left folds too, so we'll never see what he had. A few more hands where we take down the dead money pre-flop. Like this one, we have ace 10 offsuit on the button straddle. A bunch of limps we re-raise and take it down. I know, not the most eventful, but we're only playing for an hour, so we got to maximize the amount of hands that we include in this vlog. Alright, in this next one, we're back with Old Reliable, Pocket Queens, the hand of the session. There's a early position limp. I make it 25 in later position, and he calls. So heads up to a flop, which comes down king 10-6 with 2 diamonds. He checks it to me, and I think a bet or a check is fine here. This time, I decide to check. The turn is the ace of diamonds, so I feel a little bit indifferent about this card. Obviously, another overcard isn't ideal for our exact hand, but we do pick up the queen high flush draw. He checks it, and I think a check here is probably best. We're not really gonna get worse hands to call, I don't think. Maybe smaller pairs with a diamond, but all kings, all aces are probably just gonna call. So I don't know. I think in hindsight a check is best, but this time I do bet pretty small. I don't think it's horrible, and he ends up calling. The river pairs the bottom card. It is the 6 of spades. Expecting to go check check a lot of the time, but no, he leads out for $100. Definitely wasn't expecting that, but our hand is just not good enough to call. I quickly fold. In this one, there is a under the gun limp. The player to my left posts. We have ace-6 of diamonds in later position. We make it 35. The player to my left calls, the button calls, and the limper calls. So 4 ways to a flop, which comes down 5-5-4. Unfortunately, no diamonds out there. Action checks to me, and so multi-way, I think check here is probably the best play. Although, if I had overpairs here, I probably would still be checking, so not entirely done with this hand, and action ends up checking around. The turn is a pretty good card. It comes to 3 of diamonds. Action checks to me once again, and I think if I had overpairs here, now I would be putting in a bet, and then I would be betting pretty big on the river. So with our hand, we block 6-7. I really don't think it's the worst idea in the world. So I bet $75, and we only see one player call, the limper. So now we're going to be going heads up in position to a river, which comes the jack of diamonds. Shouldn't really change much. He checks it over to me, and yeah, I'm just going to stick to the plan. If I had all overpairs here, I would be betting pretty big, so I bet 300. He goes into the tank for about 2 minutes, and he does come to a decision, praying that he lets his cards go, and he does. So we get a pretty good bluff through, wrapping up the session. Last hand of the night, we have pocket tens. There's a button straddle, I make it 35, and we end up going 4 ways to a flop. Flop is ace-9 deuce, not the best. Action ends up checking all the way around. The turn is probably one of the best cards in the deck. It's another ace. So when action checks to me, I think I had the green light to go for some value, trying to basically get any 9 or any smaller pair to call. I bet half pot, 75. Unfortunately, they all released their cards, so not the biggest pot in the world, but hey, it's always good to win the last pot of the night.
Holy cow, we actually did it. We were in the game for 1,000 and we were out of the game for 21.25. So we actually won more than 1,000. We won 1,125 in exactly 1 hour of poker. I figured it would have been like, 5 minutes more or less, probably more. But the way that the blinds were, and I was right before I was about to post, so it was exactly 1 hour, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, we absolutely crushed it tonight. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I did anything special. That pocket queens hand was absolutely ridiculous. That, no joke, is probably the worst beat I put on somebody in the last 2 years. I'm going to put the equity up on the screen right now. We had him in 2% on the flop or something silly. And yeah, somehow we ended up getting there. It was just our night. Nothing more to talk about, nothing more to discuss. Yeah, poker's like that sometimes, and it's pretty cool to be on this 1 hour challenge that I randomly decided to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you enjoyed. And yeah, nothing more to say. We just got lucky tonight, and I'm happy that we cashed out a pretty big win. Thank you guys for watching. Let's get out of here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.